Charles Manson, a cult leader and career criminal from California, orchestrated the infamous Tate-LaBianca murders in August 1969, directing his devoted Manson family followers to slaughter 7 people, including pregnant actress Sharon Tate. Over 2 blood-soaked nights, his disciples stabbed, shot, and mutilated their victims, leaving messages scrawled in blood to ignite a race war called Helter Skelter. In this documentary, we'll dive into Manson's psyche through psychology and psychoanalysis, dissecting why he masterminded these atrocities, how he chose his targets, and what drove him to unleash such horror. Why focus on Charles Manson? Because his crimes aren't just brutal. They're a masterclass in manipulation and madness, a psychological labyrinth that demands exploration. Manson didn't wield a knife himself, yet he bent a group of young, impressionable followers into remorseless killers, a feat that screams psychopathy and narcissism. His motives, tied to delusional apocalyptic vision, make him a unique case for understanding how a mind can twist others into tools of terror. Picture this. August 8, 1969, a Beverly Hills mansion. Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant, begs for her unborn child's life as Susan Atkins stabs her 16 times, her blood soaking the carpet. 4 others, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojtek Frykowski, and Stephen Parent, are hacked and shot, their bodies left in a grotesque tableau. The next night, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca are bound, stabbed dozens of times, their blood used to smear death 2 pigs on the walls. Earlier, Gary Hinman was held hostage, slashed and stabbed, his blood spelling political piggy. These acts, orchestrated by Manson's hypnotic control, are raw, unfiltered horror, perfect for peeling back the layers of a monster's mind. Let's start at the beginning, because no one's born evil, or are they? Charles Manson came into the world on November 12, 1934, in Cincinnati, Ohio, to a 16-year-old mother, Kathleen Maddox, a prostitute and alcoholic who barely wanted him. His father was a ghost, absent from day one. Psychoanalysts would call this a trauma crucible. No stable parents, no love, just neglect. Kathleen once traded him for a pitcher of beer, leaving him with strangers for days. By age 5, she was in prison for robbery, and Manson was shuffled between relatives and foster homes. Psychologically, this screams attachment disorder. When a kid learns people are unreliable, they either cling or shut down. Manson shut down hard. At 7, he was stealing Christmas presents and setting them on fire. By 13, in juvenile detention, he was raped, a trauma that turned him from victim to aggressor. "I learned to keep my feelings to myself," he later said, a classic sign of emotional repression that can fester into rage. Reform schools like Guy Ball Home for boys were brutal, beatings, isolation, and ridicule. Psychologists say this kind of environment can wire a kid's brain for antisocial personality disorder, where empathy dies and manipulation thrives. Manson's early crimes, car theft, robbery, were predatory, not emotional, a red flag for psychopathy. He wasn't just surviving. He was learning to exploit the weak, a skill he'd perfect as a cult leader. So, what turned Manson from a petty crook into a puppet master of murder? It's a toxic brew of nature, nurture, and choice. Psychologically, Manson fits the dark tetrad: psychopathy, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and sadism. His psychopathy meant no empathy. His narcissism craved worship. His Machiavellianism made him a master manipulator, and his sadism relished others' pain. Released from prison in 1967, he landed in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury, a hippie haven ripe for exploitation. Here, he crafted his cult, the Manson family, preying on lost souls with promises of love and purpose. His motive? A delusional vision called Helter Skelter, inspired by the Beatles' song. Manson believed an apocalyptic race war was coming, where blacks would rise, slaughter whites, and he'd emerge as a messiah from a Death Valley hideout. Psychoanalytically, this was his grandiose delusion, a narcissistic fantasy to rewrite his worthless past. But why murder? Psychologists like Dr. Joni Mahira argue it was accelerationism, hastening societal collapse to fulfill his prophecy. The killings were meant to frame black activists, sparking chaos. This wasn't just madness. It was a calculated power trip, fueled by a need to be seen. "I'm special," he told a prison psychologist in 2012. "I've put 5 people in the grave." Manson's victims weren't random. They were pawns in his twisted game. Sharon Tate's house was targeted because it was once leased by Terry Melcher, a music producer who rejected Manson's songs. To Manson, this was a narcissistic injury, a humiliating blow to his ego. Tate, her friends, and the LaBiancas were symbols of the pigs, white, affluent society, that Manson despised. Psychoanalytically, they represented his projected rage against a world that shunned him. The Hinman murder was personal. Gary owed Manson money and land, a betrayal in his black and white worldview. Manson's followers, young, malleable women like Susan Atkins and Patricia Krenwinkel, were his weapons. He chose them for their vulnerability, using LSD, sex, and fake empathy to break them down. "Making people do what I want is the easiest thing," he bragged. Psychologically, this is coercive control, exploiting their need for belonging. The victims' wealth and status made them perfect targets for his Helter Skelter narrative meant to inflame racial tensions. It wasn't about who they were. It was about what they represented in Manson's warped mind. Brace yourself. This is where it gets gut-wrenching. August 8, 1969, Cielo Drive, Beverly Hills. Sharon Tate's home is quiet until 4 of Manson's followers, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, creep in, clad in black. Watson cuts the phone lines, shoots 18-year-old Stephen Perrin in his car, then storms the house. Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, and Wojtek Frykowski are bound, terrorized. Tate, pleading for her baby, is stabbed 16 times by Atkins, who later said, "I felt so powerful." Blood pools on the floor, walls smeared with pig. Folger is chased outside, stabbed 28 times, her white dress soaked red. Frykowski, shot and stabbed 51 times, collapses on the lawn. Sebring's face is beaten, his body riddled with 7 stab wounds. The scene, as Time reported, was grisliest, bloodiest, and apparently most senseless. Next night, August 9th, the LaBianca's Los Feliz home. Leno and Rosemary are tied up, pillows over their faces. Watson, Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten stab Leno 12 times, carved war into his stomach. Rosemary, hearing her husband screams, fights back, but is stabbed 41 times. Death to Pigs and Helter Skelter are scrawled in blood. Earlier, Gary Hinman's murder set the stage. Held hostage for days, slashed by Manson's sword, stabbed by Bobby Beausoleil, with political piggy written in blood. A neighbor told police, "The screams were like nothing human." These were rituals, staged to shock and ignite Manson's race war. Let's get inside Manson's head, a dark, tangled place. Freud's ID ego and superego model helps here. Manson's ID was a beast craving power and chaos. His ego, meant to balance those urges, was warped by a life of rejection and trauma. His superego, the moral compass, was non-existent, replaced by a cult code where murder was holy. Jung's shadow, the dark, hidden self, fits too. Manson didn't fight his shadow. He became it, embracing his inner demon as a messiah. His 1997 psychological evaluation, using tests like the MMPI-2 and Rorschach, showed severe psychopathy and narcissism, with hints of hypomania but not schizophrenia. "He's in control," Dr. Joni Mahura said, noting his deliberate crazy persona to dodge guilt. Neuropsychologically, his brain was likely shaped by trauma. Chronic abuse and neglect can dull empathy centers, making violence feel rewarding. Dopamine surges during his followers' kills fed his addiction to control. His splitting, seeing the world as all good or all bad, is a borderline defense, common in psychopaths. He idealized his followers, then used them as pawns, a classic manipulation game. He twisted their minds to think like a psychopath. One analysis noted, "Every order, every kill was Manson proving he was God, not the abandoned kid he once was." For months, Manson slipped through the cracks. His family holed up at Spawn Ranch, a rundown movie set in Death Valley. He was a chameleon, charming locals with his guitar and apocalyptic rants while directing murders from the shadows. This is compartmentalization, locking away his crimes while playing guru. He seemed like a harmless hippie, a ranch hand told The Guardian. His followers' loyalty, cemented by drugs and fear, kept them silent. Even after the Hinman murder, police missed a link to Tate-LaBianca, blaming drug deals or black activists. Manson's luck ran out when his family burned park equipment, triggering a raid on Barker Ranch in October 1969. Cops found him hiding under a sink, clutching World War II magazines about Hitler. Susan Atkins' jailhouse confession to inmates Virginia Graham and Ronnie Howard blew the case open. She showed no remorse, Graham told the LAPD, detailing the Tate murders. A .22 caliber revolver, found by a kid in Sherman Oaks, matched the crime scene, sealing the case. Manson's narcissistic grandiosity, believing he was untouchable, let him think he'd outsmarted everyone, until he didn't. In 1971, Manson and his followers were convicted of first-degree murder. He carved a swastika into his forehead, a demonic stunt that captivated the media. Sentenced to death, he dodged execution when California banned it in 1972, getting life instead. He spent 46 years behind bars, evaluated repeatedly for disorders from schizophrenia to bipolar illness. At Pelican Bay's psychiatric unit in 1997, he played the crazy card, but tests showed calculated psychopathy, not psychosis. He died in 2017 at 83, unrepentant, still a cult figure to some. "I'm a dangerous man," he told a psychologist, smirking. Philosophically, Manson's life is a battle of free will versus determinism. Sartre would say he chose evil, crafting a messiah persona when he could have chosen redemption. His charisma, his music, could have built something good, but he picked chaos. Yet, determinists argue his childhood, neglect, rape, reform school hell, rigged the game. Was he doomed, or did he embrace his darkness? His accelerationism, pushing society to collapse, reflects a nihilistic rejection of meaning, a belief that only destruction could rewrite his story. He wasn't just a killer. He was a void, sucking others into his abyss. Charles Manson's shadow looms large, a warning of what happens when charisma meets madness. His family's crimes, 7 lives stolen, countless others scarred, show how a broken mind can break others. Sharon Tate's sister still grieves. The LaBianca's kids live with ghosts. Psychologically, Manson's case teaches us about coercive control, psychopathy, and the seductive pull of cults. He wasn't a lone wolf. He was a predator who weaponized trust. Next time you hear a charismatic voice promising salvation, pause. Manson's voice did too, and it led to blood. That's the terror we can't unsee, the kind that lingers in the dark.